Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dominate the Diamond Show. We're here at Zone Sports Academy. I'm Duke Baxter with Steve Nicorak, and we have an amazing lineup of topics for you today. The purpose of this show is to help educate coaches, motivate players, and help everyone in this great game, give them the tools to dominate the diamond on and off the field. So let's dive in with the topics for the day, and let's go.
Yeah, guys, we have three awesome topics today. And again, like we mentioned every week, our topics are driven from you guys, from your questions and comments on Facebook and in our inbox. So we have three really good ones for you. The first one's going to be how to build a good team culture. The second one we have is how to incorporate pitching into your team practices. And then the third one, which is a little bit controversial, and I think it's going to drive a lot of discussion and comments back and forth, is how to handle parent issues. So we're going to dive right in with number one, how to build a good team culture, and Duke's going to get us started.
So when I think of the word culture, cultures don't make great teams. It allows the space for great teams to be created. And us as coaches, it's our duty and our responsibility to create an environment for our players to be the very best that they can be. So we're going to go over some principles. We have 5 principles. The we is better than me, is greater than me. The get ahead early, we call it details win, do it right, and don't drop the mic. So the first one is we is greater than me. And what do we mean by that? And what we mean by that is there's going to be situations in the game where we have to put the team over ourselves, whether it be on or off the field. An example is a coach gives us a sacrifice bunt, right? We're sacrificing ourselves for the betterment of our team. We're going to probably get out at first base, but we're going to move that runner from second to third. What's something off the field that putting the team ahead of myself could be? Maybe it's one of our a teammate in class and he's struggling and we want to help them out. So maybe we tutor them, or we see, somebody getting picked on outside of school and we help them. So we want to always make sure that everything that we do on or off the field is for the betterment of the team first, whether I'm throwing with the right fielder and maybe I'm not playing, but I'm in the dugout. Maybe I'm helping a player and I bring out their glove. Anything that we can do on or off the field to help the team, that's what we talk about when we're discussing that. Get ahead early. What do I mean by get ahead early? That's be clear with our expectations and our values as a coach, right? We talk about energy, we talk about effort, we talk about attitude. Those are the core values that we want our players to take on and off the field. We want to make sure we're always giving high energy, right? We want to make sure that we're giving max effort, whether it be in practice, whether it be in school, no matter what it may be, we are giving energy, effort, and attitude in everything we do on and off the field. Those aren't just the values, though, of our program. Those are also the values of our life. We want to make sure that these kids, the lessons that we're teaching them on the field, they can also be taken off of the field. Details win. What do I mean by details win? Every little thing matters. When our kids come onto the field, we make sure that their hats are on right. We make sure that their belts are on, their shirts are tucked in. Everything from their shoes being tied to the way they walk out on the field, the way that we do our warm-ups, the way that we do our throwing program. Every detail matters because, as you know, in the game, this is a game of inches. And every tag play, every throw, every little detail on the field matters. We have something that we do with our teams that's called the landmine. And this goes well with details. And what the landmine is, we'll take our team and we'll actually take a player and we'll blindfold them. We'll take tape and create a small little course, like almost like an obstacle course in the grass. And then we'll put little landmines, we'll put cones. And once they're blindfolded, they actually have to walk to the finish line. And the only thing they have and can listen to are the other 11 players telling them what to do. Take a small step to the left. Lift up your left leg because there's maybe a cone there. Now let's turn to the right. So for us to try to help our players with this, the details matter. We do the landmine finish, and that's something that works really well. Do it right. It's easy to let things slide and cut corners, whether you're running poles and you don't quite get to the line. Details really matter because we want our players to push each other and to be accountable for making sure that all the little details and all the things that we do properly. And the last thing is, don't drop the mic. And this is for you coaches out there that have a hard time sometimes with our better players, or certain players that we kind of want to turn our head and pretend that we didn't see something, so we don't talk about it. And the worst thing you can do for a team culture is to allow certain people to do certain things and not allow other players to do certain things. So don't drop the mic. Make sure that you have a voice. Make sure you keep your players accountable, and make sure that your players themselves keep themselves accountable. I know Coach Steve has a really good example of what don't drop the mic really means. Do you want to talk a little bit about that with one of your teams?
Yeah, definitely. I think those are all great points. And I love the term don't drop the mic, because we see it all the time. You see the better player on the team, he doesn't have to hustle down the first baseline. He's allowed to throw his helmet. He's allowed to curse. He's allowed to do all these things that the other players aren't allowed to do. But if we don't hold that player accountable, then, you know, we're losing all of our integrity and those values and, you know, the stuff that we talk about on day one that Duke mentioned earlier. I had my best player on the team a couple years back. We're in the championship game of a perfect game tournament, and we got the bases loaded. He hits a ball to dead center. He thinks is out. He bat flips. He starts jogging down the line. It ends up hitting the middle of the fence. He gets a single out of it. I pulled him right out of the game. And this is just one example. I've had many examples of kids throwing equipment, but this is just one that sticks out to me. First inning, big game. We got our cleanup hitter up. He bat flips, jogs down the line, gets to first base. I put in a sub at first base. His mom's yelling from the stands. Everybody's mad at me. And the last thing I wanted to do was pull our best player out of the game, but I had to, because that's a rule that we have on our team. We are always going to play the game hard. We're going to play the game the right way. So I sat down next to him in the dugout. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. I just looked at him and said, "Do you think I wanted to take you out right there? You just told the entire team that, you know, we over me wasn't important. And you bat flip, you jogged, you hot dogged it down the line. And, you know, that could have been 3-4 runs there. And instead you're standing on first base and everybody's looking at you like, look at this kid. He thought he hit a bomb in the first inning." And that's just one example. I've done it several times this season with kids throwing equipment, with kids cursing and screaming at the umpire. And it's the only way we're going to teach them. If we let them get away with it early, or we let one kid get away with it, then everybody's going to think it's okay. And it's just not the way the game's meant to be played. And it's definitely something in our organization that we don't allow happen. So I think it's tough. It's tough in big games and big situations to pull your better players out of the game and make an example of them. But I think it's going to pay off in the long run for your team as well as that individual, right? Because he shouldn't be bat flipping in the first inning and jogging down the line in a playoff or a championship game. He needs to learn to play the game the right way. And even though he was a younger kid, once he gets older and we start talking about recruiting and we start talking about coaches going to watch him play, they don't want to see that. They want to see kids that are going to bust it out of the box, you know, lay it all out on the line for their team. So I love the term don't drop the mic. I think that's awesome. I think two other great examples that we've used over the last couple of years about building a solid team culture is our team earlier this season was really struggling with 2 strikes. We were striking out a lot. We were taking pitches. We were chasing bad pitches in the dirt. So at practice one day while we were hitting, we said, no matter what, when we get to 2 strikes, we are going to toughen up and try to do our best to extend it one more pitch. So that was our topic of the day one day at practice. And before you knew it, the next game, leadoff hitter gets down 0-2, and I'm hearing the kids yell from the dugout, "Hey, one more pitch, extend it." He's fouling balls off. He ends up striking out 5 pitches later, but the kid just had to work to get him out. And I saw our kids in the dugout. They started to get fired up when they got 2 strikes. Like, oh, here we go. Let's go. I'm going to extend this at bat. I'm going to do whatever I can to extend it one more pitch. And, you know, I think a lot of you coaches out there deal with kids. They get to 2 strikes, they get nervous. They start chasing. They don't want to strike out. All these negative thoughts start going on in their head. And extend it one more pitch. The kids were yelling. They're cheering from the dugout. And there's nothing better than being down 0-2 and seeing one of our players get up there and just foul 4 or 5 balls off, take some good pitches, and then get a walk. Our dugout's going crazy. And it's just one of those, you know, silly little ways to build a positive team culture, take a negative situation and turn it into a positive. So extend it one more pitch really worked for us. And then one last season, we used the term all out because we were playing good baseball, but we weren't diving for balls. We weren't really playing all out at all times. So Coach Duke at practice one night said, our team motto for the rest of the season is going to be all out. Everything we do is all out. If you're a bench player, well, we're going to be a top step player. We're going to be on the top of the dugout cheering for our players. If you're out in the field, you're going to lay out for everything. We're going to have dirty uniforms. We're going to be soaking wet. We're going to be tired. When we get in the car on the way home, we should be mentally and physically exhausted because everything we do is all out for our team. And before you know it, before the game, instead of saying zoned on 3, our kids were saying all out on 3. Out on the field, hey, we're going all out right here. All out, we're laying out for everything. And it almost changed our mindset from, all right, we're just going to play solid baseball, to I'm going to go all out and do everything I can to help my team win today. Whether I'm 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts, well, I got to go all out on defense. You know, if I'm having a bad day on the mound, well, I got to go all out in the dugout for my teammates. And those are just 2 simple ways, right? Extend it one more pitch and go all out, that the kids bought into, and the culture changed for the rest of the season. So I think Duke, you had 5 awesome points there. I love don't drop the mic. And again, those are just two small examples that we like to use when we're talking about building that team culture.
I just want to finish it off with this, and that's to say that, you know, good communication is the bridge to confusion and clarity, right? So we have to be clear with our communication, or else we're not going to be clear and there's going to be mass confusion. So when you have a specific culture that you want your team to follow, you have to be totally clear with that right off the bat and make sure that you keep everybody accountable, because what will happen is the players themselves will keep each other and themselves accountable. And that's when you know you have a great team culture, is when you as a coach can step aside and everything is running itself. The team is running itself. Guys are always going to the line. They're making sure that the dugouts are always clean before you start a game, and then especially after a game. So when you walk off the field, instead of being the coach that's picking up the garbage, and your players are making sure that they're doing one last sweep of the dugout to show, hey, this team is run the right way, because the way you start the game and the way you finish the game says a lot about your coaches, your organization, and your team.
Yeah, and I actually just saw a great post this morning on the way in. Pitcher in the College World Series, she just threw a perfect game the other night in the College World Series, and they showed her walking back to the bus, and she was carrying the ball bucket. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. This girl just got done throwing a perfect game, and she's carrying the ball bucket back to the bus. And it just says a lot about their culture, right? The we over me mentality. She just threw a perfect game in the College World Series, and she had the bucket walking it back to the bus. And I think we see it at all ages. I see kids like, oh, I'm not going to pick up the balls, or I'm not going to sprint over and clean up, or I'm going to try to get out of the dugout real quick and have everybody else clean up the seeds and the water bottles. So I think that's huge, and that's just really good stuff that I saw at the most elite of elite levels this morning on my way in. Brings us to our next topic today: how to incorporate pitching into practice. And I think it's a really good one. It's a question we get a lot, because there's a lot of coaches out there that are volunteers. They're moms and dads that have never played before, or maybe they did play, but they didn't pitch. They played a little infield. They played a little outfield. So how to incorporate pitching into practice without wasting a lot of time. Because pitching is one of those things that, you know, if you have one pitcher throwing while everybody else is watching, well, there's a lot of standing around. So I have 5 different ways for you coaches to incorporate pitching into practice that I think is going to make the most efficient use of your time. And you're going to get a lot of kids moving. Again, our topics are always create stations, keep the kids moving, keep practice fun, keep it fast-paced. So I'm going to show you guys 5 ways here. The first one we're going to start off with is adding it into the end of the throwing program. And we're going to play a quick video here for you that Duke and I shot on how to make your throwing program finish up with a little bit of a pitching segment.
And you're just it's time consuming. There's a lot of times you have an hour and a half practice, and to get 12 kids, their bullpens in on the side with a catcher, it can be challenging. So what we have here, we have cones set up to kind of simulate our throwing partners. So Duke and I would be a partner. We'll finish our throwing program. We work it all the way back in. A great way to incorporate pitching is to do it at the end of your throwing program. Now, we're about 45 feet apart here. What Duke's going to do is he's going to get down like he's the catcher, and that would be the same for each person in their line. Myself, the other partners on this side, we're all working on whatever we need to work on that day. So for your younger players, it might be just understanding the 4-seam grip or the 2-seam grip, or what the difference is between the windup or the stretch position. But it's a great way for your players to actually get used to throwing downhill, throwing to a catcher who's got their glove up. Duke's got a cone in front of him. If you don't have cones, Duke can take his hat off and put his hat down on the ground to simulate a home plate. And then what you can do is just throw 15 pitches. Throw 15 down the middle, throw 15 to the glove side, 15 to the arm side. Now again, depending on the age of the player, you might be working in some change-ups, some curveballs, some breaking balls. But for us right now, we're just gonna work on the stretch position. Really young kids, so working on 4-seam grip. So they come set, they get their sign, and they just work on locating their pitches. Again, 15 pitches, and then switch lines. And then I would get down in my catcher position, Duke would then pitch back to me. But it's a really controlled way to get all of your players used to pitching. All right, if you're teaching them pitching for the very first time, you can even break it down even more specific. So you can call out as a coach, all right, come set, leg lift, separate, and then throw, and you can have every single player on that line. Another great addition to this drill would be actually have 3 sets of pitchers, and then you can add in an extra player standing off to the side. So Coach Duke would be my catcher. I'd have another player standing in there. He can strap a helmet on, and we call this the shadow drill. So now that pitcher, or that batter, is getting used to seeing a pitcher. I'm getting used to throwing strikes with a batter in the batter's box, and it's a great drill for your younger players that have never thrown before. First year of kid pitch, it can be challenging, but again, just a great way at the beginning of practice to get all your pitching work in, get your batters used to seeing a hitter, and it's a lot less time consuming than maybe sending one kid down to the side with one bullpen at your practice. So great way to incorporate pitching into practice.
"12 kids partnered up, you have 6 lines, the kids are working back and forth with one another. They get down, they're receiving, you're working on grips, you're working on location, you're working on maybe slide steps, working a little bit quicker to home plate. That's one thing that we struggle with as a team is runners are stealing all over the place because the kids just take forever to get the ball to home plate. You can also work on controlling the running game. So in that station, you have the kids paired up with one another. You can actually work on pickoffs to first base. You can work on lefty pickoffs, good move versus bad move. You can also spin the kids around and have them work on their pickoffs to second base. So you can work on their hang in there play. You can work on the daylight play or, a quick pick to the glove side. So there's a bunch of variations that you can do it, but I think adding in at the end of the throwing program is going to make it go by a little bit quicker for you guys that are only practicing once a week, and they're able to get a lot of their work in a small and controlled environment. Number 2, create a pitching station at practice. We talked about it last week when we were talking about running the perfect practice. We try to create as many stations as we can on the field. So if you've got younger players that don't know anything about pitching, incorporate it into a station. Have the kids, one group is doing infield work, one group is doing outfield work, you got a group hitting, and then you have 3 or 4 kids working on pitching. And that could be the basic mechanics. It could be how to hold the ball, what a 4-seam grip is, what a 2-seam grip is, what the stretch is versus the wind up. So adding that in, making it a 10-minute station at practice is another valuable way to just incorporate it in there. The third one, for you coaches that are maybe a little bit more advanced or older, have a PFP station. PFP stands for pitching fielding practice. All right, so what we like to do is we have 3 lines right at the pitcher's mound. We have a line on the first base side, and what that line is doing is working on getting over. So we hit a ground ball to the first baseman. That runner or that pitcher on the first base side works on getting over, covering first base on a ground ball. The line right in the middle, which is usually right on the pitcher's rubber, will work on double play feeds. So coach hits a ground ball right back to that pitcher, he turns, fires a double play feed to the shortstop. And then line number 3 would be on the third base side of the mound, and that's where we roll out a bunt play, and we work on getting the force out at third base. So pitcher's fielding practice, it could be a 10-minute circuit where you have 3 different lines. You have the infielders actually at their positions, and it's keeping them moving, understanding how to defend their position when they're on the field. Option number 4, do one-on-one bullpens. If you have a coach that is well-rehearsed in pitching and understands pitching and you want to send him or her down to the bullpen, then you can send one pitcher at a time down with them. They could either catch for them. You could send a catcher down there. Again, one kid at a time. They're working on their individual pitching fundamentals. Then they come back out, and then you send another kid to the bullpen. That's another great way. And then the last, which is one of my favorites, is simulated games. So controlled games, almost exhibition games that you can do at practice. And the reason I love this is because you get to give kids an opportunity that might not pitch in the game to get used to pitching to hitters. Because for you coaches out there, if you're playing in a tournament and you have 4, 5, 6 games on a weekend, you're going to need all hands on deck. You're going to need everybody to be able to pitch. They might not be your best pitcher, but if they can get up on the mound and throw strikes, they'll be valuable at some point. So doing some sort of an exhibition or a scrimmage at the end of practice is huge. You get these kids on the mound, maybe it's just limited to 5 batters, 3 batters, 5 batters. The pitchers are working, they're getting used to pitching with a batter in the batter's box. You can control it, so you can put runners on bases, you can have kids steal, you can work on certain situations and plays, and it's also valuable for your hitters because now your kids are in there, instead of just getting front toss or tee work, they're actually seeing a live ball come out of an arm. So there's so much added value to doing a simulated game or some sort of a controlled game at the end of practice each week. You're getting those kids in that don't pitch very often. you're getting the defense to read balls live off the bat, and you're giving your hitters an opportunity to see live pitching aside from just the weekend, because we get a lot of questions and comments about pitchers or batters picking up spin, laying off bad pitches, how to hit off-speed stuff. Well, it's all around a great opportunity to get your pitching work in, as well as a lot of other things while you're at practice. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Duke.
I really like the drill that you do with the the players, pre-game, before game, even having some of the hitters stand in while pitchers are throwing live to a catcher, and to be able to track balls, and they call ball or strike, they call what kind of pitch it is, they call what kind of spin is on the pitch, like all those different things, I think really help hitters when they're not seeing live every day. Them standing in on a bullpen session is really effective for them seeing live pitching. But I think that a lot of the things that you shared with everybody was awesome, and how to incorporate it, because that's a big thing, because it's such a specialized skill, and yet putting that into the everyday practices is always something that we always get questions about. So you shared a bunch of good ways.
Awesome. Well, our last topic for the day, and it's definitely a controversial one, is how to handle parent issues, right? And everybody's team's a little bit different. It depends on what age you're coaching. It depends on what skill level you're coaching. There's a lot of little variables that go into it, but how do we handle those issues that come about when we have parents that are a little bit crazy? And this is by no means a knock on parents, but there's some good parents out there, and there's some, we call them helicopter parents. They're hanging by the dugout, they're screaming at their kids, they're yelling at the umpires. There's so many different issues that we run into on a weekly basis with certain parents out there that, it's tough for us as coaches to control it. And how do we handle it? And those are awkward situations sometimes. And I think it's important that we always remember we're dealing with somebody's kid, right? So parents are instinctively going to come to the defense of their child. They're always going to think that, the coach isn't playing my kid because he doesn't like him, or he's not being fair enough, or my son only got 2 at-bats, why'd he get 3, or why'd that kid play shortstop for 4 innings and my kid only played 3 innings there. Every year we run into issues like this. And again, you have to make sure that we respect the parents. We understand that it's their child. They're always going to come to the defense of them. But we also have to make sure we set our expectations and rules on day one. The same way we do with our players, how we lay out our rules, our guidelines, our team expectations on day one. We have to do the same thing with our parents. Okay, I have a couple examples of rules here, but the same way we hold our players accountable, we have to make sure we let those parents know on day one, because it's a slippery slope. If we let one parent in the dugout, before you know it, you're going to have 12 parents in the dugout. So just a couple quick rules that I like to go over on day one with these parents is only coaches are allowed in the dugout. Okay, we're there to coach. They're there to be a parent and enjoy their time watching their kid play. So getting too many tips or getting coaching advice from the parents in the dugout constantly can be overwhelming. You're constantly looking over your shoulder. You got a parent saying, "Don't listen to coach. You got to do it my way." Number 2, food and drinks during the game. You can give your kids Gatorades or waters or snacks before the game, but in the game, parents don't need to be in the dugout giving out Gatorades, giving out Snickers bars. Wait for after the game. Right? If the kid needs a drink, he can run over real quick and grab one. But again, stay out of the dugout. The food and drinks, do it before or after the game. We don't need to be, all in the dugout all at once. One I like to do, or when I like to go over at the first practice, is our players are going to carry their own equipment. Parents carrying the players' equipment is a big no-no for us. Right? We try to teach them at a young age. It's your gear, it's your equipment. You carry it to and from the car. And really, you're going to see as they get older, right? They all have dreams and aspirations of playing in high school, of playing in college. The last thing a coach wants to see is mom or dad carrying the bag or rolling the bag for their player while the kid's wearing flip-flops walking in the dugout. We have to make sure that, they carry their own stuff, right? They're accountable for their own equipment. They have to carry it to and from the car. So those are just 3 simple ones right there. Parents are there to cheer and not to coach, right? I see it all season long. These kids are playing with enough pressure as it is. So parents, we shouldn't be in the stands screaming out mechanics to the kids, right? The coach is there. He's trying to help for the coach to listen to the player to listen to his teammates, and then the third base coach, and then the parent yelling from the stands. It's like the player's a robot out there. We want to just let them be free, let them have fun, let them enjoy playing the game. We don't need them yelling out instructions. I heard a great story the other day. I had a 10U parent call me. He actually plays for another organization, but I train him. And he said, man, I'm the assistant coach this year and I'm having a really hard time dealing with the parents. It almost makes me not want to even coach anymore because these parents, it's like they're playing a video game from the stands. They're just telling the kids to do, whatever they want at any time. And the situation was there was a runner on second and third, 2 outs, and there's a base hit to the right fielder. Right fielder fields it. You had 4 different parents yelling out 4 different things all at once. You had one dad screaming, 1, 1, 1. The other guy going, get it in, get it in. The other guy going, 2, 2, 2. The other guy going, 4. The kid froze and didn't even throw the ball. And he's standing there like looking around, like, paranoid. He had no idea what to do. And that's just one example of, parents screaming at the kid, telling him what to do. And then the kid has no idea. He's got no idea, what a baseball IQ is, because he's not able to learn and he's not able to fail on his own because he's got everybody yelling at him. And I think it's important for us coaches to relay to the parents, the kids are going to fail. We have to give them an opportunity to fail. That's how they're going to grow. That's how they're going to learn the game and learn situations and what the pace of the ball is going to do, how fast the runner is, because all of those things dictate where the ball is going to go in that certain situation, right? Ball gets hit to the right fielder with a slow runner up with 2 outs. Well, maybe he can throw it to first. Or if the kid can fly and, the runner from second's not very fast, good hit ball, he might throw him out at the plate. But those are situations and just times during the game we have to let them fail, let them understand the game, talk to them in between innings. Hey, in that situation, what are you thinking right there? What are you feeling right there? Because half the time I ask questions, the kids are just nervous, right? They're nervous to make a mistake. We had a situation this last weekend. We're down 2 in the last inning. We got bases loaded, 1 out, and the kid gets up to the plate and the coach from the other team goes out for a mound visit. So I jog in like towards the on-deck circle. I put my arm around the kid. I put my hand on his shoulder, and his heart was beating out of his chest. So I asked him, I said, what are you thinking right here, bud? And I'm waiting for him to say, like, oh, I'm going to hit a double in a gap. 12, 13-year-old kid looked at me and goes, I really just don't want to get out. I'm nervous. So I calmed him down a little bit. I told him, I said, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to strike out. It's not the end of the world. We're playing 13U baseball. It's not the end all be all. If you strike out, who cares? But we want to pump these kids up. We want to give them, the confidence and the ability to go out there and play and have fun. And again, like I mentioned, they have enough pressure on themselves as it is. They don't need added pressure from the stands, right? Another situation, pitcher's throwing after every single pitch for the first 2 weeks, he looks right at his dad in the stands. He throws a bad pitch, he looks right at his dad, almost waiting for a response. The dad's out there going like this. The kid is nervous. So I went out for a mound visit. I said to him, all right, bud, the rest of the game, you're not allowed to look at anybody but the catcher. You can talk to your players on the field, but I don't want you looking at me. I don't want you looking at your dad. It's you and him. You're in a tunnel out there. It's just you two on an island. Go pitch and have fun. Because it doesn't matter what mom or dad is saying in the stands. It doesn't matter what we're yelling from the dugout or the other team's yelling. It's you versus the hitter. Go out there and have fun. You're doing a great job. And, he took a big, deep breath. He was more relaxed. He ended up pitching a lot better because he's not playing with all this, anxiety and pressure of maybe letting his dad down or letting the team down. It's just him out there, go enjoy it, go have fun. And then rule number 3, which I like to use, is leave the umpires alone. Leave the other coaches alone. We're not always going to agree with umpires. We get that. Umpires are not perfect. They have a hard enough job as it is. So parents, lay off them. We don't need mom and dad screaming from the stands at the umpire, because what's going to happen is that umpire is not going to want to give us a call the rest of the game. If you're out there yelling at them, now more parents jump in, everybody's riding the umpire all at once. That guy's out there half the time at the youth ages, they're volunteers. The other half, these guys are out there coaching in a tournament, 5-6 games on a Sunday. He's trying to do his best job. He's not out there trying to screw it up. And again, I've gotten on umpires before as a coach, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I think we need to take a step back and realize that they're human. They're going to make mistakes, and we as coaches need to let the parents know there's no arguing or screaming at the umpires during a game. I think these issues are definitely going to happen, right? We go through them weekly, and we have these meetings with our parents. So it's just important that we respect them. We do it the right way. And one rule we really follow here at Zoned is the 24-hour policy. Our 24-hour policy just means from the time the last pitch of the game is thrown, there is no communication from parent to coach for 24 hours. And the reason we do that is, half the time the parent's frustrated. In the heat of the moment, it's not a good time to have that tough conversation, whether it's playing time or batting order or, coaching philosophy or situational play. The parking lot after the game, when you're just mad because you lost the game and the parent's furious because they feel like their kid's being treated unfairly, is not the time to have that conversation. And before you know it, 24 hours go by, tempers calm down, the parent doesn't even care anymore, and there is no issue. But if you start going head to head in the parking lot, that's where you see, I mean, we see videos all the time of people getting into fights, and it turns into a nightmare over youth baseball and youth softball. So 24-hour policy, we love it. We use it all the time here. And I think it's something really that is going to add a lot of value to your team, and it's going to kind of let the tempers calm before that tough conversation is needed. You got anything to add to those?
That's awesome. No, the only thing I wanted to add was you talk a lot about in the videos how after the game you use your note card to set up practice for the next day. And we had a situation in our game. The bases were loaded. Ball hit to the third baseman. It was 11U game, and he looked right at home like he was getting ready to fire at home, which was the right play at the time. Two of the coaches yelled 3-3-3. So as he was getting ready to throw, instead he stopped, went to go back to third. By then the runner was running past him. Then by the time he looked back at home or even first, everybody was safe. And it's like he came in, we talked, and I said, you have to allow your players to make mistakes. His right choice was coming home, but instead he heard people say something different. So then he tried to react to that. So I told him, I said, make sure that you would rather make a mistake doing it what you think is right than make a mistake thinking what you think the coach wants you to do. Because then he had done the wrong thing based on what he heard and not what he did. So in practice, what we'll then do is that same exact situation, bases are loaded, and we'll hit the ball to every single infielder for about 15 minutes and have them make those decisions. Which one do I do? Right? If it takes me towards third base, I can just step on the base. If it takes me glove side, I might throw it to second. If it's hit right at me or a little bit slow, I might go home. So taking that situation and then doing it over and over and over again. So the next time in the game, those kids are able to make their own decisions and their own plays, like you had said. So I think that anytime you see a situation in the game, whether it be a parent yelling or this or that, always have a notebook, have a journal, and jot something down so that you can then address it with the parent or with the player after the game, because there's so much stuff that happens in the game that we forget so much stuff. Take that little notebook out of your pocket, write it down. Bases are loaded. Let's work on that. Or, man, so-and-so's really getting on the umpire, and jot those notes down so you can refresh yourself and figure out the next day who you want to talk to and what kind of game plan you want to create. But I think those are some awesome topics. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. One of the questions was, Coach Steve, do you have any specific when you talk about pitching locations, like maybe we can put together like a pitching location chart, maybe in a bullpen session of where should they be throwing the ball? What do you mean by like locations? That was a question that was asked. So, maybe we can create something that gives them a little card that says, two four-seamers in, two change-ups, a fastball. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, or anything specific on that? Or
I think that's great. I think the more we can prepare our players for the game and put pressure on them in practice and really just make practice as competitive an environment as possible, the better off they're going to do in the game. So using a chart like Duke mentioned before about almost target practice, or you get into the game and it's okay, or into your bullpen session, I'm gonna locate two fastballs in, I'm gonna locate two curveballs or two changeups down and away, and you get them thinking, you get them competing in practice. Well, now the game time comes in, it's just second nature. It's, oh man, I don't want to make a bad pitch right here. It's just, I worked on this in my bullpen, I visualized already, I'm good to go. We always say it, practice time is our time, game time is the time for the players to go out and enjoy it and have fun. So I mentioned earlier the helicopter parent. Well, we also don't want to be a helicopter coach. We don't want to be screaming out there, again, like you're playing a video game and barking out directions, right? Let them fail. The power coach. Don't bark out directions. Don't yell at them. Don't tell them what to do, where to go, where to be. They're going to learn. And before you know it, their baseball and softball IQ is going to grow because they're failing. And I tell guys, it's okay to fail, right? I would rather see you make an aggressive mistake than go out there and play nervous. You're going to strike out. You're going to get picked off. You're going to get caught stealing second. You're going to walk guys. But as long as you let them learn from their mistakes and we teach them the correct way in between innings, we're not screaming out on the field, the better off, the quicker they're going to grow, the more they're going to understand this game.
So that's all of our topics. So we hope you guys and gals enjoyed the program, enjoyed the session, the show. We're going to continue to make sure that we dive into topics like player development, parenting issues, how to run efficient practices, and all different topics. So make sure you keep tuning in. Leave in the comments questions that you may have. Keep watching our videos on dominatethediamond.com and Stick and Ball TV. And we'll see you next week. And remember to go out and dominate the diamond today.